So, I remember once you mentioned a skydive incident. How was it navigating through that?
I remember holding for my life into the parachute. Being in service comes from understanding that when I serve you, I serve myself. If we remember and understand that we are a single organism on the planet as a human race, even though we may seem to be individual physical entities, yet we are very connected. How we serve others with integrity doesn't necessarily mean being nice. Being real and being nice are not the same.
What is Kundalini Yoga?
What is Kundalini Yoga? If we look at the origins of yoga, it wasn't a practice that was put together for awakening. Yoga is a path, not the path. You are practicing on a yoga mat, which is a box. What's the point of awakening an energy if we aren't able to contain it? We need to build a vessel, we need to build a container. I want to change the narrative from a problem into possibility, from an obstacle into incentives, because the joy of life is in overcoming obstacles, not healing.
So, you would say that was your awakening, kind of, into this path? Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Decoded Journeys. This week we're going to talk about community, being part of a community and building a community. And I can't think of the perfect person to talk about this. Shadi,
Thank you.
how are you doing?
Feeling great. Feeling real.
So this week's kind of topic or theme was community, like even in my meditations and stuff like that. So it's fitting that we're recording this and talking about yourself, how you built a community, Seva experience. How did that come to fruition? Like, what was your inspiration behind it?
Well, I haven't built a community. I am building. We are building. It's a co-creation. It's an ongoing project, and it is an infinite project. This is not something that you achieve. Otherwise, what do you do after that? The project started 10 years ago. The fire spark and the starter was my business partner, Eda. She is the one who founded the space when it used to be called Life in One in 2014. I met her a little bit over a year after she started the business, and we journeyed together for quite a while until we decided to elevate the project, and we created Seva together in late 2019. And we launched Seva 3 days before the lockdown in March 2020. That was a very big year. That was a very big milestone. And yeah, it was the beginning of another chapter. We didn't really realize the magnitude of work and the incredible gifts that came with this work. At the same time, this sense of responsibility scaled into another level. We were playing, and we continued to play, but a bit more seriously. And we continue to play until today. You know, Seva is a space that is our expression of what's it like to have a real ground and foundation to connect and have a richer touch point with life, from experiences related to movement, related to how we consume food or products, shopping, knowledge and information, and to have a multi-sensory platform. You come to Seva, you have the smell, the texture, the sounds, and other aspects of what we express through the space, with complete inspiration from nature, you know, which is the ultimate source for us in what we do. And vision is much, much bigger than what we are contributing to the community with today. But little by little, hopefully, we will get there.
Yeah. So you said we launched it a few days before the lockdown. So what happened during the lockdown?
So we launched Seva around March 11th, something like that. And we got the announcement that all gatherings need to be closed, and all public and community spaces, gyms, yoga studios, restaurants, they had to be shut down. It felt like driving a car 200 kilometers an hour and then smashing into a concrete wall. We had just finished the major renovation, the construction, and then the curfew started, and we had to close doors and to figure out what's next. We were a small group of people. The whole team was around 7 people, and there was a little bit of extra touch points and touch-ups that we needed to do with the contractors, so they were able to continue the work, but we were not able to operate. And in a fast forward recollection, we basically had to sustain our business in a way or another while closed throughout the whole year until summer. And that was a very, very difficult year. Great time for reflection. We got a bit creative about offering things online and delivering things from the shop, which are the things that sustained kind of the business. And yeah, it was a complete bootstrapping. Until today, it is bootstrapping based. And little by little, things started to loosen up end of the year. And that is where we realized also, in a way, looking backward at the beginning of 2021, that this COVID was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
In a way, it opened also the needs, the real needs for people to look after themselves, to appreciate and value places of clean and holistic eatings, and the importance of the touch, importance of movement, importance of touch spaces. So the brand, the upbranding from Life and One to Seva only was given a chance to express itself towards end of the year. Yeah.
So were you still part of the Life, like the old name?
No, so Life and One is the same space. We basically upbranded it by renaming the space, changing the registration in Dubai government, and the activities, and uplifting the whole space physically, building the interiors of the cafe, enhancing the interiors of the villa itself, and so on. And Life and One remains a memory dear in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you balance between being in service and actually being like genuinely being in service and not making it very too commercial? You know what I mean? Like since it's a business.
Seva is for profit. We are not a charity. We are not an ashram. We are not a temple. Yet that doesn't mean there is this notion that something is commercial, that means it's lacking its essence or is without a spirit. So when we realize that we need to understand how energy manifests and how everything is an energy at the end, how we relate to it, how we interact with it, is upon our way of positioning ourselves in relationship to it. Being in service comes from understanding that when I serve you, I serve myself. The word Seva is a Sanskrit word that means selfless act of service. And even this term, selfless act of service, barely gives justice to the meaning of this deep, deep virtue. So if we remember and understand consistently that we are a single organism on the planet as a human race, and that even though we may seem to be individual physical entities, yet we are very connected. Our ancestors, back hundreds of thousands of years ago, when they were in the jungle, they didn't have an individual ego or an individual perspective. They were functioning as a pack. They were hunting together. They were living together. They were gathering food together. And similar to how some animals today only identify as a pack, we used to be the same. Only when we started to look at our reflection in the water and we created and invented the first mirror, that's where the individuation and the single individual identity and ego and stories started to govern the way we operate. So it's very important to remember that we are one. So how can we play this game of life with that mindset while we are still in a very interesting times society-wise where we need to function as individuals. So it's a dance to play in between both. And we do our best to come with our integrity, with our values and virtues, because in the end, it's upon us to act with responsibility in every touch point, you know? Now, how we serve others with integrity doesn't necessarily mean being nice, you know? Being real and being nice are not the same. How can we be authentic and real in today's world is not an easy thing, because relatively we fall under a hospitality category, and hospitality is more about, perhaps in most places, pleasing the client is always right, etc., etc. We don't belittle that, but at the same time, it's not the default act. You know, we enhance our abilities to offer what we wish to be offered. So when I offer you something, I want to offer it in the best possible way, as if I'm offering it to myself, to my family, to my dear circles, because we believe Seva community and everybody who walks into Seva is of the circle of Seva. This is what we desire. This is the vision. And last November, we had our 10-year anniversary over a weekend where we nearly had 600 people over a Saturday and Sunday. It was profound. It was incredible. I was just looking at the garden, packed with people from morning till midnight. And on both midnights, we had incredible soundscapes and sound healing and sound journey experiments under full moon. And there were hundreds of people in the garden. That was truly, truly inspiring and very heartwarming. So the least we can do is to offer the best of the best. Yeah. And about being commercial, well, if I convince you to spend your money in Seva versus spending it in a shopping mall, I win. In the end, we live in a very consumerist culture, and it's all about contributing to enhancing priorities, you know? We were having a conversation a month ago how marketing and healing are contradicting, because in a way, the essence of healing in the way we look at it is life, and the essence of life is movement. And if I think about it and I feel into it from this perspective, you are perfect. I want to sell you the perception and the reality that even your obstacles and difficulties are nothing but possibilities and incentives. Yet, I want you to come to my center. So I offer my marketing messages accordingly. But how do I bring the balance? And it's a very, very delicate dance into enhancing the message to say, rather than come and fix yourself, it's more about come to get some guidance, come to explore possibilities, come that you co-create. And this is the invitation, more than come for a subscription that you need it. Otherwise, you're going to be always confused in life and so on. So in the end, it's the message that we pass on and the experience that we consistently ask for feedbacks and reviews from spectators and guests and clients to be able to, you know, do better. We always ask, how can we do things better? And this is very, very important for us.
Yeah. I like the idea of not wanting to fix things, because the word heal kind of depicts like there's something wrong with us.
It's a very interesting thing, because I don't know the origins of the word healing in this spectrum of offerings, but whenever we have the word healing, we're looking at a healer and a healy coming together, and naturally this comes to a place of finding a problem to resolve. Otherwise, what's the point of healing, right? Now, if you were building a house because you need to build it for safety and security, and it's coming out of fear and scarcity, you're going to build it with a certain energy of survival. Now, imagine you are building a house out of abundance, out of the desire to create something beautiful, that something can be remembered, and it still needs to be functional, but you're coming with energy that is not scarce, right? If you are able to realize the difference, not with the output, but with the energy with which you enter into this field, this is where we are shifting from healing to experience. I want to change the narrative from a problem into possibility, from an obstacle into incentives, because the joy of life is in overcoming obstacles. How can we realize that the dark side, the difficulties, the pain are really gifts of life? You know, we say pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. How can I shave out the suffering part? How can I transmute this to understand that pain is integral incentive to life? Fear is the ultimate emotion that we are born with, the primal one. And it was intended for survival. It made us survive until today, over millions of years. Do we understand that? Do we honor our fears, or do we avoid them? How can we bring that into the totality of our existence? I believe experience is what offers us that, not healing.
And if we value our fear, will it still have like kind of control over us?
It depends on what fear means and how much of it is real and how much of it is imaginary. Is the financial system based fear today life-threatening? Maybe. We look at the pandemic, we were talking about COVID, and a big chunk of people were affected by the media, the fear of the story, not the actual virus attacking them, which shows us that thoughts influence how we feel, and how we feel influences the body psychosomatically. And that's where a story can be real. But we are primed to survive by triggers of fear. The reptilian brain at the base of our brain, the part where we share it with all animals, is there based on fears. It triggers itself based on the survival needs. You know, procreation, shelter, and food comes from that subtle fear base. Yet, when it is hijacking the modern brain, the frontal lobe, and our cognitive function, it creates confusion there, and it creates imaginary fears that eventually create the stress and the anxiety and various ailments that many people experience and suffer from. And many of these fears are not necessarily within our hands. Our conditioning, our upbringing, our inherent sensation of life while we were in the womb, our way of coming to life, all these environmental aspects influence how we find ourselves between safe and unsafe. Where do we find ourselves in the hierarchy? Who is the top dog? Who is the bottom dog? Where am I in between? And this is foundation of existence. Now, it doesn't mean if we are brought up in a certain construct, we cannot have the possibility to enhance it. And this is the promise of an experience, to redefine the importance of fear, to position ourselves from our fears within our ability in a more constructive and stable place, you know?
Yeah.
And these are the things that we need to realize, rather than just say, I'm scared of this, I'm not gonna look into it, you know? It's only risky when we don't play risky. How can we enhance our abilities to expand our comfort? You know, it takes courage. Courage is confronting certain fears. And it can be very subtle, but we need to strengthen that muscle, because if we were boats, and boats are safest by the harbor, but we don't build them to keep them by the harbor. You know, they need to go and sail, and there is risks, and we could be scared of these waves and storms and whatnot. But then what's the point of boats and ships? Might as well look into life the way we are, as if we are boats.
Yeah. Love that. So in Seva, what kind of services do you guys offer?
We have a cafe, Middle East's first plant-based, gluten-free, sugar-free, 100% cafe, Seva table. And we have the wellness center, which is the Seva experience. And then we have our retail shop, and each one of them fragments into various bits and pieces. So from a service perspective, when it comes to the wellness center, we offer our training programs. And then we have our, beyond the training programs, we have our regular classes of integrated wellness services such as yoga, sound healing sessions, breath work, meditation, different kind of yoga classes and so on. Beyond the classes, we offer the private treatments, the personalized wellness services, group circles, inner wisdom circles for women, womb steaming, lunar cycle sessions for full moon and new moon cycles, sensual dancing for women. We have a very rich portfolio of offerings. So this is from the wellness side of things. And the cafe is a space that speaks for itself. The garden is truly magical. One of the greenest spots in the city. The food is made from scratch from whole ingredients, including the milks that we prepare, soaking the almonds and the hazelnuts and everything, and blending and squeezing every morning. Our dishes are very eclectic, but with a South American touch, because our amazing culinary expert and head chef Kiki is from Venezuela, so she brings her amazing Latino twist. And the desserts are amazing. I will always say that about our food. So the thing is, it's not just about what you eat, it's about the environment, the music, the sensation of the texture and the environment, smell and the sense and so on. And our impeccable team that I am truly in deep gratitude for, every individual of them, because without them, there wouldn't be a Seva. It's a co-creation. So, yeah, and then we have the retail store that also is a space that has hand-picked items from very small sets of suppliers that we have been in contact and in relationship for many, many years.
By the way, you guys have the best banana bread.
Thank you.
Wallah, I crave it all the time.
I should have brought you some. You should have told me.
It's okay, I may go after this.
With pleasure.
What is Kundalini Yoga? I never understood it, so I'm curious.
Have you ever tried it?
Once with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it in my class?
No, with Ella.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should come to one of my classes.
I should, yeah.
So you can have the experience. Because the thing is, every teacher can also contribute to the practice with their own personality. You can see the transmission of the person's personality through the work. I offer the class in a 90-minute program that goes between warm-ups, physical movements, and meditation, and then relaxation. Now, what is Kundalini Yoga? What is yoga? Yoga is a practice that we think is a bit of physical movements, but that is a very tiny part of what yoga is. Yoga, I mean, that's the asana part, the postures, and the vinyasa flow, which is where the movement follows breath. So yoga as a way of life comes from the word yuj, which means union in Sanskrit. And in a way, it is intimacy with everything, starting with yourself. How can you be intimate within so you are more aware of the world around you? And Kundalini, the word, comes from the term kundal, which means the braid of the beloved, the hair braid. And the essence of Kundalini is, in literature, a metaphor for a snake coiled and asleep under a tree, representing the dormant and inactive energy at the base of the spine in the human body. Now, when we say base of the spine, it's not necessarily physically there. It's an energy that is basically at the root, at the earth of our existence. And Kundalini Yoga is, as most popularly known today, is a practice that was put together by an Indian sage, an Indian practitioner, and a master of practice called Yogi Bhajan in the 60s, who brought this practice from different schools, Raj Yoga, Nad Yoga, Kriya Yoga, different schools that have been around for thousands of years. And he compiled the practice with a vision that is coming also from his culture, the Sikh culture in northern India. So the history is a bit complex, and at the same time, it's with a vision to be a manual for humanity as we transition into what's called the Aquarian Age or the New Age, which started a few decades ago, according to astrological movements and so on. But to simplify it without the wider abstract story, it's a space where we are using our physical body, our breath, our gaze, and the sound to create an experience and a movement that allow us to build and sustain a strong container that will allow us to sustain and hold the energy as it expands and it moves. This energy, you want to call it Kundalini, you want to call it whatever, can manifest emotionally, can manifest physically, can manifest mentally, psychologically. And what's the point of awakening an energy if we aren't able to contain it? We need to build a vessel, we need to build a container. So you start to understand what strength and resilience mean in a very different way. I get some incredibly powerful, physically powerful men to the class. Some people come from military backgrounds, some people come from strong physical background, and they get very disturbed in the class when they see they can't hold certain postures. The girl next to them who's been doing the practice for many, many months is able to hold it with grace. This is where we understand that our perception of strength and resilience can be redefined. There is inner strength, there is mental strength, there is emotional courage to get uncomfortable physically. All these parameters are practiced in Kundalini Yoga. And even though I started with different schools of yoga at the beginning, when I landed on Kundalini Yoga, I realized how potent it is, how effective it is, and how from one class you can have a very powerful experience that can perhaps make you realize the possibilities within yourself. And this is where I find the potency of it. Yeah.
I remember a few years ago when I used to come to Seva, you mentioned something like, it was something very quick. I think you were busy. You mentioned, I think I was telling you I'm going to the gym. And you told me, try Kundalini Yoga instead. That comment always stuck in my head. So how does Kundalini Yoga affect the body? Like, can I replace it with the gym?
It depends on what you use the gym for. Maybe it's social. You never know. Maybe you like the ambience. Maybe you like to hang out with your friends. Maybe you like the idea of going to the gym. Even within the gym, I used to do powerlifting. I used to do extreme heavy weights in the past. And I come from a martial art background. So I have gone through the physical movement into very advanced level. But then I realized that there is no right or wrong, you know. But if you are into bodybuilding, Kundalini Yoga is not going to be your solution. But if you're looking for strength, it goes beyond weightlifting. It goes beyond just mobility exercises. It's beyond enhancing the range of motion and so on. Kundalini Yoga is famous for working with arms in a way that you don't normally exercise, like holding your arms in a certain posture for what you think is 2-3 minutes, but then when it gets to 8 minutes, or when you move your hands in a certain way for 25 minutes, you think it's almost impossible the first time. But then as you enhance your mental abilities you realize that as soon as you drop your hands, your body recovers in 20 seconds. So remembering that and building that resilience and that ability, because your arms are not going to fall down. That is going to bring you an ability that you can even integrate back into your gym workout. Because in the end, the mind has limiting beliefs and the body can go way beyond that. But we are conditioned to get uncomfortable. And the minute we get uncomfortable, we slow down or we stop because there is no real life threat. How can we enhance that range of motion? Kundalini Yoga is very good in doing that. There are certain breaths, like the breath of fire, is going to build a lot of heat and energy in the body. And there is something beautiful about Kundalini Yoga, which can be a wider container to practice different aspects. How we relate to the sound. When we chant, we're not chanting for prayers. We're not chanting for the meaning. We're chanting to express the vibrations through our vocal cords, the mouth, palate, the tongue. And we learn how to listen before we voice the mantra. We learn how to tune into the sacred sound current. It brings you beautiful aspects and dimensions of enhancing your ability in ways that also, physically speaking, can build you unbelievable strength. The best abs I got are thanks to Kundalini Yoga, not to the gym. When you practice certain sequences like the Nabi Kriya, and you extend the practice to 40 days, 90 days, 140 days, which is 45 minutes of core exercises. It never gets easy. Never gets easy. And this is the beauty of this practice. Its ceiling is so high, and it comes with a lot of different movements that can enhance your abilities in many, many ways.
Interesting. So I remember once you mentioned a skydive incident in one of our sessions. I would want to talk about that experience, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
And like how was it navigating through that?
Well, there were two incidents with skydiving that stood out mainly. One of them was related to my relationship with death and how in the early stages of my practice, I thought I befriended death. I thought that I am not scared of death. And then in one of the early jumps, there was a walkie-talkie stuck into my gear. And the band that was holding it popped out and the walkie-talkie fell. But the sensation was like if one of the straps got cut off. And I remember holding for my life into the parachute, thinking that is gonna be basically splitting off me. And in that moment, I realized my story of befriending death is just very superficial. You know, there is a primal survival power and force within all of us that also makes us hold on to life, not to drop life easily. And later on, I had again, during my trainings, I had a bad landing that ended up with an injury. And I was on crutches for several weeks. That later on at the gym, somebody suggested I go to yoga for rehab and physical stretching and so on. And that offered me the opportunity to practice yoga, to try it out. And I remember in one of the early relaxation postures, Shavasana, I had this expansive sensation of being out of the body. And that got me curious into the practice. A year later, I went to India, did my teacher training, because back in the days I was traveling a lot for work and I wanted a way to practice without a teacher. And in many ways, I always joke about how I landed from a skydive jump on the yoga mat. And I no longer skydive, but I continue my practice.
That's yoga. Nice.
Yeah.
So you would say that was the thing that was your awakening kind of into this path?
I don't know about awakening. I'm still awakening. It's an infinite journey in many ways. It contributed to putting me on a path. I mentioned to you earlier when we were chatting outside that I explored dance workshops a few weeks ago. It was so profound. It actually made me wonder if I had started dancing other than that instead of yoga, what would have been lifelike, because I can see how much the yoga practice influenced and shaped many aspects of my life. And tapping into dancing, but the movement aspect of dancing also contributed to a profound realization. And I wondered, if I had done this for the last 10, 15 years, where would I be today? How different things would have been in many ways. Of course, the esoteric side of yoga, the philosophy, the history, the literature, were very important part of my education and venture into the path of yoga. But I think in the end, it doesn't matter. If you are on a path, you can be on a path of maybe parkour or carpentry or singing or painting. Anything of expression is going to be contributing to so-called awakening. In the end, what is awakening other than being aware and realizing what is active and what is dormant within our own toolkit, our own existence? So the more we are moving in life, we realize our potential, our abilities, our inabilities and limitations. Yoga is a path, not the path. Perhaps it gets associated with so-called awakening because of the history, because of the stories. But if we look at the origins of yoga, it wasn't a practice that was put together for awakening. It was inspired by nature thousands of years ago, simply to allow householders to sustain the movement of life. Life was not the same as today. We are buying very interesting clothing, posting interesting postures on our social media, desiring to practice in a certain studio, on a certain mat, with a certain teacher, following a certain sequence. These luxuries didn't exist at the origin of this practice. The source, the needs were different. And so it's very important to pay attention to the origins of things. And I believe yoga, as much as it can contribute to many people's well-being, it's a very limited practice. I mentioned many times that you are practicing on a yoga mat, which is a box. And when I certainly move people off the mat in the class sometimes, it makes them uncomfortable, because we are conditioned, again, to practice in a box. So where is the fluidity? Where is the organic aspect? These are the parts that I believe we need to look into, whatever practice that we are pursuing.
And throughout your journey, you also went to
the Amazon jungle.
Yeah.
I went to the Amazon jungle to celebrate my 40th birthday. That was the reason. It was always a dream to make it to the jungle. I was able to go there a couple of years ago, and it was truly profound experience, going with my amazing dear brother and friend, Nacho, who also is a facilitator at Seva. After spending several years together, deepening my education and practice on certain aspects of the cosmology of the jungle, and to have that in real life out there, meeting his teachers and the tribes he works with and he studies with and practices with, was a very humbling experience. And I can tell you, nature is very, very loud, to say the least. We think of nature as silence and tranquility, but it's loud. That's the thing that stood out. All the incredible colors during the day translates into unbelievable sounds at night. Something that not many people talk about, which is very, very important. If we want to integrate with nature, we need to understand nature more, you know. It was a very humbling experience from bugs and mosquitoes perspective. I thought being barefoot in a pair of shorts, topless, is a cool thing to do. I paid the price very, very fast. And just observing the indigenous people, their way of life, how close they are to nature, makes me realize how far we are from nature. Their movements, their postures, the way they walk, their tonalities, the way they interact with nature, their cosmovision. It's a different paradigm than what we live. Words can't put just to that experience. Part of me remains in the nature of the jungle, and I can't wait to go back.
It's my dream too, to also spend time in the jungle. Like before you went to the jungle and when you came back, what changed when you came back?
The way I look at things and through things changed. I was even told my eyes changed.
Like physically, your eyes changed?
I didn't ask that part. But someone I know who can see, look at me, and he says, your eyes, they're not the same. Is it physical? Is it not? I'm not sure. You know, to be honest, I wasn't looking into changing anything when I went there, nor was I looking for answers. I didn't have any questions. I went for the experience in a similar way of how I believe we desire to invite everybody to pursue life experientially. I would say what changed the most is my relationship with gratitude. If I am a prayer, I would say I am a prayer for gratitude today. There is so much that is within the power of this virtue, and to position ourselves in life from an angle of gratitude that I experienced there through different circles and practices and encounters. And I believe this is something that was greatly enhanced upon my return. It's a very powerful instrument when we learn how to be grateful to life. How can we be grateful to difficulties? How can we pay attention into very fine aspects of life rather than looking at the cup and say, is it half full? Is it half empty? And then saying, oh, it's half water, and then enhancing it and saying, well, it's half water and half air, going macro, and then expressing my gratitude to the water. But I can also now express my gratitude to the possibility that I live at times where there is a glass to contain the water. Because once upon a time, we lived where there were no glasses. But we take things for granted today. And just as a metaphor here, this aspect in every part of our life can enhance our intimacy with the way we perceive the reality around us. You see people with very little living incredible lives. And they don't need, even if you give them the much. You know, it's clutter. So these aspects are very, very dear to my heart, more than anything else.
Yeah. When you go there, like you can just hit up the tribe and be like, I want to stay with you? Or like, how does it work?
No.
Like, how does it?
I went with my teacher who basically took me to a private access to a family that is not open for the public domain. It's not a retreat center. It's not a well-accommodated space for tourists or spiritual tourists or ceremony tourists and whatnot. So I was able and I was honored to live with his teacher, who was at that time 105 years old, who recently passed away. And this is something that I hold dear, and I'm forever grateful to the possibility to have had this encounter and this possibility to live with this family. So I understand and I'm aware of many, many outlets today in the jungle, in different countries out there in the Amazon, where there are facilities and there are places to go and have, you know, the jungle experience, full spectrum. I haven't done that. I don't know what that is like. I heard mixed experiences and encounters between great and not so great. So my experience was relatively private. I believe I had a very tiny, tiny speck of dust of the possibilities of the jungle during that period of my stay.
Yeah,
I look forward to more.
that's nice.
Yeah.
If you could leave the listeners or viewers one message, what do you feel like you would want to say?
I'm not good in giving advices. And I don't believe a message is important to be given because there is an abundance, you know, but I can understand as well. This can be a possibility to have seeds for people to take away. And the biggest message I have today, I always say when we talk about ancestry and the ancestors supporting us and backing us, the biggest message I have, I would say, inspired by what we do at Seva, is to plant the seeds for today's people and today's world to realize one day they will be the ancestors. The same way we are being supported by our ancestors, the act of responsibility today contributes to us becoming real, solid ancestors for the future generations. This means playing in life with courage, taking risks, owning our totality in every action, in every word, in every thought, in every feeling we feel. The expression, how real do we live every day, is very important. If we just realize that we have no guarantee that tomorrow will come, yet we take our life for granted that there is a tomorrow. If we wake up and ask ourselves, if today is my last day, how real will I be? That is enough for us to enhance the way we breathe, the way we walk, the way we treat our neighbors, the way we tap on our shoulders and say, well done on whatever you have achieved today, and the way we look after others, because that's how we look after ourselves in this relay game.
Yeah. That's a very deep message.
Relatively speaking.
I mean, it may not seem, but like the way I received it was very in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe we perceive what's within. That also conveys your depth and how you see things. Not all see the same of the same objective position of things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I'm so happy I got to know you more. I'm super grateful. Since that's the theme for today, I'm super grateful that you came.
I am the one who's grateful for the possibility, and I congratulate you on this platform and this medium of expression, and I wish you sincerely all the best.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Decoded Journeys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on the notification bell to get notified when I upload more videos. Thank you.